nights, truths on the run. They make secrets, we're the ones who dig them up for fun. Headstones in the graveyard where stories reside. We bring back headlines, no place to hide. Try to cover it, but we'll find the trace. Shadows and whispers, no escape from this place. Headstones and headlines, where the truth collides. We'll expose the lies. There's nowhere to hide. From the dirt to the grit, we'll make it clear. True crime uncovered, it's why we're here. The headline tells a tale of deceit. From the grave to the page, the truth reads. Cold cases, long leads, nothing gets by. We turn the stones, leave no questions why. You can run, but we're hard on the trail. Every secret's revealed, no matter how stale. Headstones and headlines, where the truth collides. We'll expose the lies. There's nowhere to hide. From the dirt to the grit, we'll make it clear. True crime uncovered, it's why we're here. In the dark of the night, we bring it to light. Every crime, every lie, every fight. No stone left unturned, no truth left unsaid. We write the headlines from the graves of the dead. Headstones and headlines, where the truth collides. We'll expose the lies. There's nowhere to hide. From the dirt to the grit, we'll make it clear. True crime uncovered, it's why we're here. Headstones and headlines, where the stories remain. We dig 'em up, we feel their pain. The truth is out, the case is closed, but our search for justice never slows.
Hey everyone, happy Saturday. It's been a while. I think it's been actually a week, maybe more than a week since I've been live. This past week we had state exams, and so we don't have all of the kids, only the kids that have to take tests. So there's 2 tests each day, and only the kids who have to take the test come to school. But it is so draining. I think just, administering tests, and then you're sitting, walking around proctoring for, upwards of 3 hours, 6 hours a day. It's exhausting. So I did do my shorts as usual, and, kind of jumped into a few other lives as I could. But yeah, I was just really tired this past week. So this morning I was actually going to do a short on this case that we're going to talk about today. Well, the main case that we're going to talk about. And as I was reading and listening, I'm like, okay, this needs to be alive because there's so much going on. And I don't think, a short would give a summary, but there's like so much more to talk about in regards to it. And it's out of Tempe, Arizona, and a grandmother and mother have been arrested in the death of a 13-year-old teenager with special needs. The mom was released. Grandma is being held on a $500,000 bond. And in one of the clips, you'll see the judge say, you'll be held on $500,000 bond. The grandmother kind of makes this sound like, what? But I do have my viewer discretion advised up because it is, it's hard to hear and, I don't understand how people can be so horrible. And I have another short I'm going to post after this live. I think he was 25 or 26. This idiot, because that's what he is, he should not be a father, was using his 3-month-old to remove snow off of his car. So now, charges are going to be pressed against him because he doesn't know how to actually take care of a baby, clearly. And of course, he posted it on TikTok, and that's how people found out what he was doing. Hey, fly on your wall. Yes, that's true too. Fly on your wall. Make the short. And I like because the shorts I actually did that with Robert Brooks. I did the short after because then you can connect the short to your live stream, which is kind of nice too. So I definitely will. No, it was definitely not a skit, fly on your wall. And so I have the short already, but I was just like, I don't know if I should post it because the baby wasn't harmed and, was bundled up. It's not like it was, a naked baby or a baby without winter clothing on, but it was still a 3-month-old baby that this father was using as a snow shovel in some respects. I don't know. I'll decide. Hey, Evil Queen. I didn't know if I could listen to this one. It is hard to hear. I did watch all of the videos prior. We also have the press conference for this case. So they describe more of the conditions that this teen was living in. I did put in, I couldn't find the court documents on Pacer or, on local court sites. They're not online. So I do have a records request in for them because it's a pretty lengthy affidavit. So hopefully sometime, this coming week, I'll get those. So thanks for being here, Just Irish. Pookie, thanks for being here, Sinner. All right, so we have a few people here. I know there's it seems like everyone is still talking about Wade Wilson. It's like I get he gets the views and things, but I don't know. There's so many more stories to talk about. So many more. And the shooting that took place at Antioch High School in Nashville, I have also, I'm going to do an update on that as well in regards to the female victim in that case. I'm not going to focus on the shooter because he clearly had issues and He's also a coward because, instead of just taking his own life to begin with, he had to rain terror on his school, and unfortunately, a young girl lost her life. So I've been following that one, and, just so many things going on. I do plan on doing an update on the California wildfires. For those of you who were in my live where I had shown a clip where let me back up. An evacuee was leaving on a bicycle and had his artwork, and he couldn't carry all of it and ride the bike at the same time. So the newscaster had said, "Let me take those for you. When it's safe, I'll get them back to you." Well, the reporter got them back to the man whose paintings they were. So there's lots of updates in regards to that. Some other stories that, firefighters had put letters in a safe to protect them. I mean, there's just so many things coming out of there, and I haven't kept up as much as I was with the fires, but I know there was a new one burning and that they had made some headway with it. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. So lots of different stories. So now that, state exams are done, I am going to try to get back to my normal live stream schedule. I can't believe we're the last week of January already. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Which means I think we have 4 weeks until February break. 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember exactly. And people still want to say Jen Soto and mothers like her. It's craziness. All right, so we're going to start with this article from Fox 10. And again, for those of you just coming in, thank you for being here. If you haven't hit that like, please do so, or do so on your way out. If you are watching the replay, #replay. And please leave comments, because I do enjoy reading your comments and seeing your perspectives, especially on, these cases. And if there's cases that you want me to talk about or that you're interested in, feel free to email me at headstonesandheadlines@gmail.com. And we will take a look at them. So this says, court docs reveal new details on deadly Tempe child abuse case. And this was updated yesterday. So it says, the brief court documents are revealing additional details surrounding a child abuse investigation in Tempe, again, Arizona. The victim, identified as a 13-year-old, died at the hospital. The suspects are identified as the victim's mother and grandmother. We have obtained court documents related to a case of child abuse in the East Valley that left a girl dead. According to Tempe police, they have arrested 2 people in connection with the death, and the suspects are related to the victim. Here's what we know. Who are the suspects? So here's grandma. She is who was on my thumbnail. And what's scary about this is that the 13-year-old isn't the only child in her care. She had 3 other children also in her care. So hopefully they are okay. According to our initial report on the alleged crime, Tempe police identified the 2 women they arrested as the victim's mother, 33-year-old Jamie Hodges, and the victim's grandmother, 55-year-old Virginia Lujan. It should be noted that the court documents we obtained were for Lujan. I think they pronounce it Lujan. However, Hodges was mentioned in Lujan's court documents. What allegedly happened? Per the court documents for Lujan, the alleged crime began to unfold on January 21st, 2025, at a home near Mill Avenue and Carter Drive. The victim, according to investigators, was one of Hodges' 5 children. The children range in age from 2 to 15 years old. While Lujan's court documents identified the victim by name, her name was redacted from the copies that we obtained. Police said the 13-year-old was diagnosed with a form of childhood epilepsy at a young age. They also said she had the mental capacity of a 3-year-old, as well as limited verbal abilities. Investigators also noted that in 2021, Hodges transferred 4 of her 5 children's guardianship to Lujan. So mom gave custody to her mom or their grandmother. So she was raising 4 of the 5 children. Grandma was. Hodges told police that she recently moved in with Lujan because structural issues forced her out of her former home. Lujan's home was described by investigators as a 2-story townhome with 3 bedrooms. Hodges and her 2-year-old daughter slept in the living room on the main floor. Lujan had her own bedroom on the 2nd floor, and the rest of the children shared the remaining 2 bedrooms. Investigators wrote, while also noting that none of Hodges' children were enrolled in or attending school. And when I had heard that initially, I wondered how long. I mean, we're in January, and I believe they start school earlier. I know they do out west. They start in August as opposed to September. But I would assume that these children haven't been in school the entire year. If they weren't enrolled in school, that means they probably hadn't been there this year, or who knows how long. I'd like to know. And with that, did the school district know that these children lived in their district? Because, you know, my school doesn't have a truancy officer. I don't know if truancy officers are still part of the school budget, but there are some schools that still have truancy officers. Or, you know, if you don't have one, you would contact, first you would contact the family, like, where's the child? And then if there's no response from the family, hey, Team Britt, long time no see. I emailed you the other day. I don't know if you got it. I was thinking of you, so I sent you an email. So if the parents don't respond, then it would be our job, you know, well, for me, I would go to my administration, and then administration would do their part and probably contact the tip line as a mandated reporter to do a welfare check or something like that. But this is very interesting that none of them were enrolled or attending school. I mean, did they say they were being homeschooled? I would guess not, because I would guess that the, you know, article would say that, but police described Lujan's home as, quote, disorderly and filthy, with trash littering the home's floors and dead insects such as cockroaches being seen in various parts of the home. As for where the victim was kept, police called it a, quote, makeshift cage in our initial report. Court documents contain details on the makeshift cage, as seen by officers when they served a search warrant at the home. And when you hear how, well, they're going to describe it now, they deliberately, it wasn't like a dog kennel or a dog crate. They deliberately constructed this to keep this 13-year-old child contained. Police discovered an elevated bed frame similar to bunk beds inside, with the exception that there was no bed or mattress on the bottom. Instead, the tall bed frame created a space underneath the top bunk. A large rail large enough to enclose the long right side of the bed, and another rail with plastic baby gates attached to it were found by this bed. These items together were attached to the frame as walls for an enclosure. So it's almost like, I think of the ones that I had in college. It was like a bunk bed, but the bottom bed actually you could put as bunk beds, or you could turn it and it would be almost like an L shape. So the top bunk would stay that direction, but then the bottom bunk could be moved. So it's almost like I'm thinking of something like that, where they didn't have the bottom bed and then they just attached these gates so that the teen couldn't get out. That's true. Desk area. Oh, right. The desk area could go underneath there too, because that's how mine was set up. I had the top bunk in college, and then my roommate had the bottom. And then her desk was actually next to her bed, underneath the bed. So it was, yeah. Either way, I mean, they deliberately did this so that this child couldn't, move about. Loft bed. Thank you, Just Irish. That's loft bed. I couldn't think of the word. Hey, Patty, how are you? Okay, so we did that. So these items together were attached to the frame as walls for an enclosure or cage, as described by Hodges. These components were zip tied together with multiple multicolored plastic zip ties. That reminds me, I need to look. Do you remember that little boy we talked about? Let me just write a note. His mom and his mom's boyfriend stapled him to the wall and then made videos laughing about it. I gotta look up and see what's happening in that case. Police also noted that there was human waste on the floor within the enclosure. So not only did they keep this poor child contained, they didn't allow this child to use the bathroom. Or, depending on, their ability, maybe they needed assistance to use the restroom and no one gave it to her. Actually, did they say it was a female? Hold on a second. Oh, her name. Okay, so they did say it was a female. Timeline. Hodges. So Hodges is the mother. According to police, said that when she returned home from the dentist earlier on January 21st, she noticed that the victim was, quote, acting off. Hodges described the victim's eyes as droopy, and she was acting weird. Investigators said Hodges also saw a large rash or discoloration under the victim's armpits and on the back of her legs. When she confronted Lujan about what happened, Lujan said, quote, "The victim must have rolled off the bed or out of her crib last night," end quote. So a 13-year-old child, well, teenager, was in a crib? Hodges told Lujan to call for medical assistance, but Lujan was worried she would get in trouble because of the way the victim looked. According to police, Hodges and her 15-year-old son left the home at around 5:45 p.m. and went to a gym and a grocery store. At around 8:30 p.m., Hodges' son got a call from Lujan, where Lujan told her grandson that they needed to come home, and hung up. So this is, now I see why the mom shouldn't have been released either, in my opinion, based on reading this. So mom got home from the dentist, noticed that her daughter was acting weird, and then proceeded to leave the home again, I would assume based on this, with her son to go to the gym and grocery store. I mean, if my child was acting out of the ordinary, I wouldn't necessarily go to the ER or urgent care, but I wouldn't leave. Like, I would be worried, and I would want to make sure that they were okay. But mom knew that her daughter hadn't fallen out of bed or out of her crib because she didn't have either of those things. Right, Just Irish. I would be watching, right. Yeah, they always say they fell off the bed. Hodges called Lujan to find out what was happening. Lujan told Hodges that she tried to feed the victim, and now the victim was, quote, gargling or gasping. Police said when Hodges got home, Lujan was close to calling 911. Lujan was found, quote, laying over the victim on the mattress in Lujan's room. Lujan told her 15-year-old grandson to take the victim downstairs. Lujan went downstairs and hugged each of the other children and told them, "I wouldn't hurt you." What? This woman. Per investigators, Tempe police officers and crews with Tempe Fire Medical Rescue were called to the home at around 9 p.m. Lujan first told responders that the victim had fallen a few days prior. The victim was found in the living room floor, on the living room floor. I'm assuming that's what it's supposed to be. Can't be inside the floor. I mean, maybe you could. Was found in the living room floor. I mean, I guess it's possible. This is bizarre. So, all right, hold on a second. Let me go back up here because, okay, so initially, that's what I thought. So initially, the grandmother told the mom that the victim must have rolled off the bed or out of her crib because of the discoloration, rashes, things like that. And Hodges told Lujan to call for medical assistance, but Lujan was worried. Why didn't the mother call for medical assistance? I feel like the mother was lying to investigators. The mother knew exactly what was happening in that house. I have no doubt. What the F? And then if your grandchild is gargling or gasping, you don't call 911? Right, bed and crib are two different beds. I know, Team Brett. Each news story these days is more horrific than the next. And then for the grandmother to like hug each of the other grandchildren and say, "I wouldn't hurt you." Like, what are you trying to hide, lady? And then she told first responders, the grandmother said the girl had fallen a few days before. I mean, I guess that is consistent with what she told her daughter. She had fallen, but she didn't tell her, she had fallen off the bed or out of her crib. Investigators also said a police sergeant at the scene saw the victim covered in bruises on various parts of her body. The bruises were described as being in various stages of healing. The victim, per investigators, was taken to the hospital and was declared dead just before 3 a.m. on January 22nd. After the victim's death, police said they found dried blood inside her right ear and noted that her face appeared swollen. Possibly just Irish. Maybe that was, quote, coaching. Yep, head injury. I mean, it's possible she did fall, but you call for help. And so this is before police knew the conditions of what this girl was living in, like what her daily routine was. What investigators have found. Lujan, according to police, was interviewed at the hospital, and she said the victim fell in the middle of the night on January 19th. So that was 2 days before the mom had seen her daughter acting weird. And the grandmother had said she must have fallen out of her bed or out of the crib. So where was mom in those 2 days? That's what I want to know. Lujan noticed the victim hit her head on the wall and damaged the drywall after falling down the stairs from the second floor to the landing, investigators wrote. Per investigators, Lujan said the victim was fine all day on January 20th, but started to act differently on January 21st. Oh, there's the explanation. She was fine. She was fine after she hit her head on the wall. And she fell down the stairs. If you fell and you hit your head and damaged the drywall, that's a pretty significant fall. Regardless if she was okay or not, call 911. When evidence speaks, their lies are obvious. This has me comparing other parents to other cases going on. We know they're lying. We have to figure out why they are and what they're covering up. Right. And that's what police found after. I mean, Lujan described the victim's symptoms as drowsy and slow. Read a portion of the court documents. The victim's condition worsened to not breathing when she called 911. Oh, so how interesting. She stopped breathing right when she called 911. Investigators also said that Lujan started noticing the bruises on the victim's body on January 20th and noticed blood in her ear on January 21st. Usually, when I think of like an ear bleeding, I think of internal bleeding. Because, I mean, and maybe it's just the thing in movies. I'm not a medical professional, but you always see the blood coming out of the mouth and the ears. If I saw anyone with their ear bleeding, one, I would say, do you know your ear's bleeding? Two, especially if it's family, I would be calling 911 because that is not normal. Could be Evil Queen, and I can understand that too. She didn't want Ellie to see living conditions. Yet, I mean, and I can't judge these people because they had this poor girl living in a makeshift cage. So I will judge them. Right. And I always think of when I think of drowsiness after head trauma is Natasha Richardson. She always comes to mind. She fell, hit her head, felt okay, never woke up again. Yeah. And then, pair that with the ear bleeding. Not good. Okay. So she has a reason though. Okay. So investigators said that Lujan started noticing the bruising January 20th, noticed blood in her ear on January 21st. However, Lujan allegedly did not seek medical attention earlier because she thought the victim would be all right. Once Lujan decided to call 911, she commented that she wanted to clean the victim up so she did not look so bad. I cannot. Yes, Liam Neeson's wife. Yes, Natasha's the lady who was skiing. Yep. All right, I'm getting more mad. I didn't read this whole article because I knew like the basics, but I wanted to like learn it all with everyone. A ruptured eardrum is the most common cause of ear bleeding, usually from being struck. Hey, Curious, drive safe. This woman. Now I understand why her bond was set so high. Once Lujan decided to call 911, so she decided, I'm going to call 911. She commented that she wanted to clean the victim up so she did not look so bad. What are you trying to hide, lady? What are you trying to hide? Detective said Lujan is accused of a count of child abuse as defined in ARS 13-3623A1. Hodges was booked and released pending further investigation for one count of child abuse. What's next? A judge has set a $500,000 bond for Lujan. Should she make bond, she will be subjected to a number of restrictions, including not being allowed to be alone with any person under the age of 18. A preliminary hearing has been scheduled for January 31st. So the 31st is Friday. All right, so let me write that down. All right, so we're going to go over to, I have a video here just to kind of summarize, and then we'll get into the press conference. As of today, she did not make bond. No. Her daughter, I think this is the one they talk about, the daughter was released. But the daughter wasn't held. The daughter was only held on, I think they said like $1,500. Don't quote me. I may have maybe misremembering.
Tonight at 6, a 13-year-old girl in Tempe has died after police say she was kept in a cage. And tonight, her family members are under investigation. Fox 10's Lauren Clark has the latest.
I threw up. As soon as I found out, I threw up. I had a special needs child who passed away a couple years ago, and I just can't imagine how somebody could do that.
Neighbor Sear is shaking, thinking about the events that led up to the death of 13-year-old Melanie Granados just steps away from her home. Police say the teen, who had a cognitive delay in the mental capacity of a 3-year-old, was caged and abused before her death. Melanie's grandmother, 55-year-old Virginia Lujan, is arrested and in jail. Her mother, 33-year-old Jamie Hodges, was booked and released pending charges. Police say...
Okay, so I misspoke. Her mom has not been charged yet. So she was arrested but released pending charges. So I misspoke.
Lujan called 911 on Tuesday evening, saying her granddaughter wasn't breathing. When officers arrived, they found the teen covered in bruises and sores in various stages of healing and living in a home in disarray.
Very deplorable conditions, to say the least.
Officers found what they describe as a makeshift cage, covers with feces and urine.
The best way to describe it, it was a bunk bed, but the lower bed of that bunk was not there, and the bunk bed around the bottom was surrounded by baby cages and makeshift bars.
Both Lujan and Hodges admitted to police that they kept Melanie inside the cage to control her. Police say Hodges was staying temporarily.
So they told police, so they both said they kept her in the cage to, quote, control her. And let me go back. I just wanted to make sure I remember correctly. Okay, so the 13-year-old had childhood epilepsy and the mental capacity of a 3-year-old, limited verbal abilities. So, I mean, so we're going to keep her contained to control her. It makes no sense. No sense.
Rarely at her mother Luhan's home, where Luhan was caring for 4 out of her 5 children. Luhan told investigators Melanie fell down the stairs on Sunday, but didn't seek medical attention because she thought she would be fine. Court paperwork also describes Melanie's face as swollen, with dried blood in her ear. After hours in the hospital, Melanie died Wednesday morning.
Children are so precious. I just forget that that kind of evil exists.
Sierra says her children played with the other kids inside the home. Officers say the children, ranging in ages from 2 to 15, were not enrolled in school.
Something wasn't right with them. I noticed that. I didn't let my kids go very close to them, and the littlest kids didn't really seem to play like how the other kids do.
Today in court,
we're asking for a $500,000 cash bond at this time.
Oh, and it was cash bond. I missed that part. And did you hear the grandma? She's like, oh, $500,000 cash bond. And she's like, oh.
A judge told Luhan she'd be held on a $500,000 bond. Meanwhile, Tempe Police Chief Kenneth McCoy vowing to seek accountability in Melanie's death.
No child should ever have to endure suffering. We are committed to uncovering the truth and seeking justice on her behalf.
This is the sight from the window at the home.
And so I thought this is weird to me. I thought at first I was imagining things, but nope, they have this type of silhouette in the window. Creepy. Super creepy.
Home, and it's certainly very chilling to see that, knowing.
Chilling, creepy, demented. Like, it's like a child trying to escape. Yeah. WTF is right.
What police say unfolded inside this home here. Unclear if that's a Halloween decoration or perhaps something darker. Now, investigators say that.
Halloween was what? November, December, almost. Well, 3 months ago. We'll say 3 months ago. I've never seen something like that as a Halloween decoration.
There could be more charges possible as they await the results of that autopsy. Police also say the other children have been removed from the home and are currently in the state's service. Reporting here in Tempe, Lauren Clark, Fox 10 News.
Craziness. Let's see. The parents make me sick. The power tripping control they abuse with kids that can't fight back. Really, yeah, right. And she had limited verbal capacity, and maybe the other children weren't physically harmed, but if they were living in those conditions, that's still not okay. That's still not okay. And the thing is, now I'm thinking about this now. Grandma said both Grandma and Mom said the reason they kept her in there in that makeshift cage was to control her, yet didn't allow her out to use the bathroom. So clearly that doesn't make any sense because you're not controlling her. You're not helping her make, decisions and to help her do everyday things. And somebody had said it before. I think it was Fly on the Wall. Let me see if I can find it. You said something about the mom was probably annoyed she was special needs, something like that. I can't find it now. Oh, and I missed this comment. Possibly shoving food so autopsy shows she was fed. Yeah, that's one thing that they might mention it in the press conference. I haven't actually watched that yet. But they didn't really say about like her. I mean, they talked about her outward physical appearance, but they didn't talk about, if she was thin, if she looked malnourished, any of that. So I'd be interested in the autopsy as well, because I'm sure they're going to find way more than just this poor kid allegedly fell down the stairs. Evil has to tell you what they do. Symbolism will be their downfall. Yeah, that is so true. And that thing in the window, I mean, I would be creeped out just living in that complex. If you are a parent in distress, there are folks to help. Parent Stress Line, call 1-800-632-8188 for free, confidential, and anonymous support. This helpline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I did not know that existed, so thank you, Sinner. I had no idea something like that existed. All kids are traumatized from watching the abuse happen and living in squalor. Yeah. And I'm curious if, because they had said that 4 of the 5 children lived with grandma. So I'm wondering if the 15-year-old boy is who still lived with mom until they had to move in because of whatever issue. One second. My cats are being very bad today. I have more than one digging the furniture, and it's like, knock it off. Knock it off. Yeah, sounds like they didn't want to deal or love with her. Yeah. And, if you need, like somebody, I think it was, who said it? I think maybe it was Team Brit had said, if you need help. Oh, yeah. It was Team Brit. Get help if you need help. There's. In a panic, they tried to cover up as much as possible in the moment. I don't disagree with that. Oh, it was you, Just Irish. Thank you. Probably didn't keep her. No, I mean, if she had feces on the floor and they said she had bruises and sores, I mean, she probably wasn't being bathed. She probably wasn't being. I doubt she was even being fed. They probably just put her there and, it pains me to even say this, pretended she didn't exist. It's awful. Oh, it's nap time for your kitties, Pookie. I wish it was nap time. They've been up for an hour bugging me to eat, and it's like, it's not time to eat. It's only 2:30. Almost 2:30. Okay, so let's go to. So this is the press conference. Oh, give me a second. My things are all screwed up. What the heck did I do with these slides? No, stop it. I must have accidentally yeah, they're all shifted. I must have messed up something. I thought the other one was like that, but I'm like, nah, it's probably just the way yeah, that would have annoyed me. There we go. All right. There we go. Hey, Willow Johnson, how are ya? Long time no see. Oh my gosh, Fly on Your Wall. That is so sad to read. That's really sad. Some parents view their kids as defective when they aren't born the way they want them to be, and they have animosity toward them for life. I've got to say, I see it all the time. In education, there are students who I've had, throughout all the years where they weren't who their parents wanted them to be, so they would have more children. And, some of them, the kids would end up living with their grandparents because the parents didn't want them, but they wanted the new child. I mean, it makes me sick. Absolutely sick. Oh gosh. That's so sad, Fly on Your Wall. I grew up hearing you're just like your father. Kids are to be seen and not heard. That makes me so sad. Yeah, Evil Queen, there are many services available. Therapy probably would have helped her, possibly. And that's why I don't think the district even may have known about the children. However, I find it hard to believe that there weren't reports prior to this incident. Maybe not. It'll be interesting to see going forward what, if anything, law enforcement or social services, or even, have they lived there for a long time? Did they just move there? How did these kids go unnoticed? I mean, the one neighbor said she saw the kids and she thought they were strange, or, she kept her kids a safe distance away. But
All right, first of all, we want to thank you all for coming. On my right, we have Commander John Gilchinen. He is over our Criminal Investigations Bureau. To my left, we have Officer Jessica Els. She is our PIO from the Media Relations Unit. And we are going to start today by hearing from Tempe Police Chief Ken McCoy, who is going to read a prepared statement for you, and then we will have time for questions afterwards. Chief.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We're deeply saddened by the tragic death of 13-year-old Melanie Granados. Our thoughts are with her family, friends, and everyone affected by this devastating event. No child should ever have to endure suffering. We are committed to uncovering the truth and seeking justice on her behalf. On Tuesday evening, our officers responded to the home of Virginia Lujan after she called 911 to report that her 13-year-old granddaughter, Melanie, was unresponsive. Despite immediate life-saving efforts, she was pronounced dead early Wednesday morning at the hospital. Melanie, who had a cognitive delay with the mental capacity of a 3-year-old, had been in the care of her grandmother along with several other children. During the investigation, our officers observed that she had extensive injuries, including bruises and sores in various stages of healing. A search of the home uncovered horrible conditions, along with a makeshift cage filled with feces. Lujan and Melanie's mother, Jamie Hodges, admitted they kept her in a cage to maintain control of her. Hodges, the mother, had been temporarily staying at the home with her 5 children, 4 of whom were under Lujan's care. Hodges admitted She had not regularly seen Melanie during this time and was unaware of a reported fall down the stairs that Lujan claimed occurred 2 days earlier. Lujan did not seek medical attention for Melanie after the alleged fall, saying she believed that she would recover. We arrested 55-year-old Virginia Lujan, who is currently in custody. Melanie's mother, 33-year-old Jamie Hodges, was arrested and released pending charges. Both women face child abuse charges, and additional charges may follow as our investigation continues. The tragic loss of a child is a profound reminder of our shared responsibility to protect the most vulnerable in our community. Investigations like this demand meticulous attention to detail and sensitivity to the emotional toll that it takes on everyone involved. The Tempe Police Department is committed to holding these individuals responsible and ensuring that no child endures this type of suffering. We urge anyone with information regarding this case to contact the Tempe Police Department. Your assistance is vital as we seek justice and to work to prevent tragedies such as this in the future. Thank you.
We do have time for some questions.
What is the status of the other 4 children, and did they show any signs of abuse?
So they were removed by DCS and they are in other care. We are continuing our investigation into the status of those children. Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about Hodges being released pending charges? It seemed that there was a confession of holding the child in a makeshift cage. Can you just kind of explain or give us a little bit more clarity of that?
Of course. So Hodges was released pending charges, and what that means is that she was booked for charges, but released pending further investigation. So right now she did make some statements, but there were more that could be followed up with her statements. They weren't exactly as concise as her holding the child in the cage. So there is still more to investigate with her.
Is there any, I know it's still under investigation, is there any idea though on what caused the unresponsiveness of Melanie?
We are going to be waiting for an autopsy, and that will hopefully give us some clarity to that.
Any idea how long this abuse had been taking place, or how long this child may have been locked up in the cage?
We can't speak to that right now. We are still actively investigating, so we're hoping that as we gather more information, we will be able to get a timeline to that.
Was there any evidence that she had ever been taken to a doctor?
Once again, that's going to be part of our fact finding as we investigate.
And you mentioned they're waiting on an autopsy. Other charges could be pending. Is it possible to say that homicide charges could be among those possibilities for your investigation?
That may be a possibility.
We did see at the house sort of a makeshift dog house in the backyard. Can you say whether that's the cage? Was the cage inside or outside?
That likely belongs. There is a dog in the home as well. The cage that we were referring to was inside the home.
Any way you can describe it? Was it a cage? Was she kept in a closet, or was she just kept in a cage in a room? Or what can you tell us about where this 13-year-old had been kept in those conditions?
The best way to describe it, it was a bunk bed, but the lower bed of that bunk was not there, and the bunk bed around the bottom was surrounded by baby cages and makeshift bars for the bottom of that bunk bed.
Can you talk a little bit more too just about the conditions inside the home? Were there any other red flags that officers noticed, or what was it like inside the home other than this makeshift cage?
The home was very disorderly. It was not very clean. It just was very deplorable conditions, to say the least.
Was she in school, and did anyone not notice this condition about her?
The information that we have right now is that none of the children had been attending school.
Ages of the children? Do we have ages range from what?
We have an age range of the youngest being 2 to 15 years old.
Had there ever been calls to that home before, reports of abuse previously?
We're still looking into all of the calls for service, but right now it just appears very minimal calls.
Can you talk a little bit more about Melanie's condition? Obviously, there was bruises at different stages of healing, but did you see any malnourished, or were there any other medical issues as well?
We're hoping to find more information of malnourishment or any other medical problems with the autopsy.
Have you had an opportunity to interview neighbors, and did any of them notice anything unusual?
That's still part of the continuing investigation. I know that today detectives were doing additional interviews with other people, so that's all going to be part of the investigative process.
Is there any way you can provide some clarity as far as who had custody of the children? Did the grandmother have custody? Did the mom not have custody? Or what can you tell us about the situation? It sounds like 4 of the children were living with the grandmother. What can you explain?
Just a very general statement is that 4 of the children were under the care of grandma, while mom had care of the youngest child. The exact custody arrangement through DCS, we are still looking into what the exact arrangements were.
Do you have any info on Melanie's father, notification, any involvement in Melanie's life?
I don't have that information with her father or any of the other children.
Just to be clear, so I understand accurately, the grandmother, she claimed that the girl had fallen down the stairs 2 days prior. Was she relating that to what happened Tuesday night, to the call Tuesday night?
As far as we understand, that's one of the reasons she said that the child might have been unresponsive.
Can you talk about officers going in a situation like this? This is obviously a very emotional story. The community impacted. Can you talk about the impact officers have arriving on the scene and hearing about this child?
So one of the things that the department really looks into is our wellness of our officers, right? So anytime we have calls that are of this magnitude that may affect the mental health of our officers, we do have a peer support team. So they will be checking in with any officers or detectives or anyone who essentially had a part in this case, just to check in and make sure that they're doing okay. You know, we do recognize that a lot of officers do have children around this age range. So it's really important to always follow up.
Do you have the street address of this property or the cross streets? What part of town was this in?
The cross streets are going to be Mill Avenue and the US 60, just south.
You've been on the force a long time. I mean, your reaction when you see a story like this, I mean, you guys come across all kinds of things, but it affects you personally as well as everyone else, right?
Of course, these specific calls are just heartbreaking. These are the calls that you never want to have to go on. They're the calls we wish we didn't have to see, but that is why we signed up to do this job, is because we want to be able to speak for these victims and be able to have a voice for them and get justice.
Can we describe the cage?
Describe the cage? Again, the best way it can be described is a bunk bed. The top bed was still there. The bottom bed was not, and was surrounded with baby gates and other caging-like material.
Just a follow-up on the calls for service question, any prior reports to DCS?
I'm not sure of the reports with DCS.
You know, if Tempe PD has been out there weeks prior, months prior, or anything like that for any other calls?
We hadn't been out there within the recent history. We had been out there for other calls within the past years, but again, nothing to do with any sort of abuse cases.
I know you had also mentioned that it will be a little while part of the investigation, but you know, as far as we're talking about months, possibly years that this child was in this cage, I mean, I know we're kind of speculating, but it is a long period of time. I mean, any way to give us a rough estimate as to what we're talking about?
We really can't speak to how long she had been in the cage or controlled by the cage. What we do know is that she had been in the care of her grandma for a significant amount of time. So these are all pieces of evidence that we will use to hopefully piece together a more accurate timeline.
One more question, guys. And feel free to ask the question to the chief or our commander as well.
Yeah, I mean, Chief, can you step up and just give us your thoughts when this type of story comes through? I mean, obviously, you covered all types of stuff in your experience, but again, it impacts you personally too, right? These are hard.
Yeah, absolutely. These are just heartbreaking situations that not only impact our officers, but impact the whole community. And for us to see a child suffering like this, again, just reiterates why we do this work and why it's so important that all of us as a collective do everything we can to keep the most vulnerable in our community safe. And so our officers, are working around the clock right now to find answers in this situation. But where I started with this is our hearts go out to Melanie. And again, this is a tragedy for our whole community. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, so kind of the same things that we had seen in the video, in the article. Just, they really can't say much, which makes sense. So one thing I thought I had put this story, I knew there was a clip that I had seen that kind of gave a visual of what they, I guess, believe, based on what the officer had stated the cage looked like. So this was, they had said about like a bunk bed. And then what it was, the bottom part was removed. So you have like that loft bed, so to speak. And then they used baby gates and things like that were attached with zip ties to enclose the area. So this kind of gives a little more of a visual, I guess. It may look different, but it even furthers my opinion that there's no way that this young girl fell down the stairs, because if they kept her in this cage to, quote, control her, I don't believe that she would be able to freely move about the house at all. If ever. Just awful. Absolutely awful. And yeah. And hey, Nanny, Jersey. Yeah, I just saw this morning. I was working on another short and this one popped up and I'm like, oh, let me take a look at this one. And it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I will keep an eye out on this story. And as I said at the beginning, I did put in a records request for the police report on this. So hopefully that will come, sometime this week, depending on how busy the Tempe Police Department is. And we'll go through that if it's not too horrifying. All right, so we're going to shift gears. This is a story that I had seen, I think yesterday or the day before. And I just saw the title. It said, "Missing Woman Dies After Body Found on Hospital Roof." And I was like, 1, how did she get on the roof? 2, when did she go missing? And why was she at the hospital? This is really sad. Really, really sad, this story. All right.
Police in Waukegan are investigating a woman's death after she went missing from a hospital and was then found on the rooftop 2 days later.
It happened at the Vista Medical Center.
Oh, 2 days. I missed that the first time. So this woman went missing and was found 2 days later.
East in Waukegan, and that is where Elizabeth Matthews is with late breaking details. Elizabeth.
Yeah, guys, I spoke with the family of the woman who was found, and this afternoon they are horrified, and to be blunt, they're frankly mad. They're upset with hospital staff. They say they were lied to about where Chelsea was and where she was found.
Wow. So the hospital, obviously, they're trying to do damage control. They're not, telling the family where she was actually found. Well, now everybody knows, hospital. Everybody knows now.
dead. They worked on her for about 14 hours here in the emergency room, but really couldn't bring her back. She was found unresponsive. Take a look.
Did she say 14 hours? They worked on her for 14 hours? That is a long time.
Bring her back. She was found unresponsive. Take a look. This is who we're talking about. Her back. She was found unresponsive, but really couldn't bring her back. She was found unresponsive. Dead. They worked on her for about 14 hours here in the emergency room, but really couldn't bring her back. She was found unresponsive. Take a look. This is who we're talking about.
So 14 hours. And was it because they didn't want anyone to find out? They didn't want her to pass away because they screwed up? I feel like 14 hours working on resuscitating someone is excessive. Oh, maybe life support, just Irish? Do you think, like, like, the way it made me sound is they worked, it says in the emergency room. So they wouldn't, I mean, I guess they could intubate in the emergency room, but it's very strange.
28-year-old Chelsea Adolphus. She was admitted to Vista Medical Center East on Tuesday and went missing sometime after that. It wasn't until yesterday morning when she was found unresponsive on the hospital's roof. The Lake County Coroner's Office says she was treated in the emergency room for 14 hours, pronounced dead last night around 11. An autopsy.
Yeah, so she was treated in the emergency room for 14 hours. And I want to know, how did she get to the roof? Pookie says, the hospital here tried to put my oldest daughter in prison when the doctor almost killed my youngest. Unreal. Just Irish says, my brother was on life support for 16 hours until he was taken off. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Just Irish. I just found it strange that they had worked on her in the emergency room for that long. I guess, they do have, some hospitals have like those rooms in the emergency room. But I guess just the way that they're reporting it is weird. Yes, Sinner, I hadn't. I think it must have been yesterday I saw it. And what I do is I'll just see stories that sound interesting. So I'll watch one clip and then I find other ones about it and I just put it all in my watch later so that, when I go live, I just, pick certain stories that I've put in my watch later to to make a show.
Was performed today. The results were not yet made public, and we're told there will be a joint press conference about this investigation next week. Sources tell Fox 32 that due to recent furloughs at the hospital, there were no more designated sitters, people whose job it is to watch patients at times who may be confused. Our sources say Adolphus was in a confused state due to a medical issue and was wearing only her hospital gown when she made her way to the roof. The only reason she was
So they're well, I mean, it could be. I mean, maybe they don't have the staffing, but if someone is in a confused state and there's not what you call sitters, nurses don't do routine checks every so often. When did the hospital realize she was missing? Did they tell the family she was missing? Or did the family go to see her and say, where's my loved one? And I mean, usually don't they have alarms? I mean, I don't work in a hospital, but I would think they would have some type of alarm or something. Like if you were, like a stairwell to the roof, like there would be some type of lock or alarm that would sound if someone got up there, you would think. I mean, maybe not. Okay, Just Irish. So he was still in emergency after being flown in, so it could explain that. But how was she moved after being non-responsive? Good point. Good point.
Found, we are told, is because another patient's husband spotted her body on the roof. Vista Medical.
Okay, so that tells me that there's roof access for everyone at the hospital. So maybe instead of, I'm in the country, so hospitals here have more land. So they have like the outdoor areas. So maybe they had some type of, I don't know, like outside type thing where you could go. And the fact that another patient's husband found her and not the hospital, that's not okay. I feel like I need to listen to that again. Let me just go back.
Investigation next week. Sources tell Fox 32 that due to recent furloughs at the hospital, there were no more designated sitters, people whose job it is to watch patients at times who may be confused. Our sources say Adolphus was in a confused state due to a medical issue and was wearing only her hospital gown when she made her way to the roof. The only reason she was found, we are told, is because another patient's husband spotted her body on the roof.
And I like how they said the only reason she was found, which tells me, just the way, and maybe the reporter didn't mean to put that tone into it, but to me, it seems like no one else at the hospital was looking for her. They probably, I can't speak for them because I wasn't there, but I'm guessing they probably just said, oh, she probably just left or wandered out.
Vista Medical Center East has been in hot water before. Last year, the hospital lost its trauma center status, but only briefly after state officials found it lacked essential services like a blood bank, anesthesia, and a full-time trauma coordinator. Now, we have reached out to hospital management for comment, have not yet heard back. Again, I spoke with the family this afternoon. They say they are working on having some type of memorial service for Chelsea, perhaps today, up here in Waukegan. Reporting live, Elizabeth Matthews, Fox 32, Chicago.
Okay, and I was looking up because I was curious to see what the roof of the hospital looked like. So I just did a Google search, and People magazine, no less, had an aerial view. So here is the hospital itself, and it didn't say, where on the roof she was found, but it doesn't appear that there would be any place for someone to just like hang out or smokers on the roof. Oops, no, I don't want to enter the chat. It's pretty big building. Let me see if this says anything. So it says a family is searching for answers after their loved one died hours after she was found on a hospital roof. Chelsea Adolphus, 28, has been identified by family members as the deceased. According to the outlet, the incident took place at Vista Medical Center East in Waukegan, Illinois. Adolphus was admitted as a patient earlier this week for a medical issue. At some point, she went missing and was later found unresponsive on the roof at approximately 8:45 a.m. Thursday, January 23rd. And she was taken to the ER to be treated for cold exposure and pronounced dead at 11:03 p.m. that same night. People reached out to the Waukegan Police Department and Lake County Coroner's Office for comment, but did not immediately hear back. The Lake County Coroner's Office told the NBC News station that an investigation into the, quote, unusual circumstances had been launched by the police department. An autopsy was performed on Adolphus Friday, January 24th, which was yesterday. 28. 28 she was, Team Britt. Her brother, Paul Adolphus, told WGN News, hospital officials confirmed to me that my sister's body was on the roof and that she slept on their roof. It's not fair that my sister's life was in their hands, he said. Chelsea's sibling is struggling to understand how his sister died under their care. She came here because she trusted Waukegan Vista Hospital that she was going to be better from rehab from drinking. Paul continued, saying precautions should have been taken to ensure his sister and other patients were safe. Doors should be locked. Doors should be very secured. It doesn't make no sense why my sister would want to escape the facility. During his interview, he shared one final message to Chelsea. I love you, sister. I love you with all my heart. There's no way it will go like this. Hey, Trixie, how are you? Vista Medical Center is in a horrible area. My daughter and I were almost attacked there when she was released from having her baby. That's so scary. That is so sad. Vibes of the Cecil Hotel. Right, Just Irish? I hope the autopsy was not performed at that hospital. And if it was, I hope the family asks for a second opinion. They do, because I agree. Super sketch. Any further details will be released at the joint conference, likely Monday. Okay, so tomorrow is when a joint conference they're going to have. So I'm going to write that down because we might, we will cover it. 26th. Okay. It's just so bizarre. So, in speaking of her brother, I know People Magazine had his quotes, but the next video I have for us actually is where WGN does talk to her brother, so we can see him say those words, not just me. Right, Just Irish, and that's one thing that first news clip didn't say, that if she had, based on what the brother said. Hopefully he says a little more, but based on what that article had said, had quoted him as saying she was there for rehab and she went there because she trusted that hospital. So, like you said, even more of a reason for people to watch. Right. So patients had access to roof. Yeah, Evil Queen. The patient's husband, the other patient's husband got up to the roof. So, I don't know. It's
family of a woman who died while in the care of a Waukegan hospital is demanding answers.
Yeah, her body had been found on the roof of Vista Medical Center East yesterday, and WGN's Andrea Medina reports.
It's not fair that my sister's life was in your hand.
Paul Adolphus is filled with grief and outrage after learning his vibrant and full of life 28-year-old sister, Chelsea Adolphus, passed away. Her body was found on the roof.
Okay, so this is a much better picture than People Magazine, but yeah, so people must just go up to the roof to smoke, but there's no, I'm guessing it's not allowed. Maybe it is, I don't know.
Roof of Vista Medical Center East in Waukegan this past Thursday.
She came here because she trusted Waukegan Vista Hospital that they was going to be able to better her from rehab from drinking.
Paul says that when he received the devastating news, medical staff gave him 3 conflicting versions of where her body was found.
3 conflicting versions. So I don't think it was because they didn't have enough, quote, sitters. I think somebody wasn't doing their job. There we go. Thank you, Just Irish. Not an approved area. Smoking on entire grounds is usually prohibited. Right. And the hospital, it's not really near me, but the nearest hospital to me, they actually cross the street because it's like a certain, they can't be on hospital grounds, so they go across the street to smoke.
found. But today he met with hospital officials who were finally able to provide him with some answers.
Confirmed to me.
Okay, why'd they show that part of the hospital roof? That's weird. Unless they just zoomed in. So maybe this is the door. Are they saying this is where she was found? Oh, there's footprints. There's footprints right there. At least they look like footprints. It could be something else. Interesting.
Who were finally able to provide him with some answers.
Confirmed to me that my sister's body was on the roof and that she slept on top of their roof.
The Lake County Coroner's Office is investigating the case, which they have described as having unusual circumstances. They state that Chelsea was admitted to the hospital earlier this week and was found unresponsive around 8:45 a.m. yesterday. After receiving treatment in the emergency room for about 14 hours, she later died around 11 p.m. Paul doesn't know how long she was
And so I'm curious. It's hard to see. Like, this hospital is huge. I was trying to see, like, what area. It might be this back area. I was trying to figure out, like, where, based on what they had shown. It almost seems like it's this area because there was kind of like that alcove type area. Yeah, 2 days, Nanny Sharon. Oh no, Trixie. My granddaughter could have died from being born there. They had my daughter pushing for 4 hours. The baby had the cord so tightly around her, she kept going back in. My husband yelled at the doctor to do something. That's terrible.
exposed to the freezing weather, but he feels let down by the hospital.
Doors should be locked. Doors should be very secure. It doesn't make no sense. Why would my sister want to escape from the facility?
Paul says his family is considering legal action as they refuse to let her death.
I mean, I feel they have a good case for, legal action, because if you're getting 3 conflicting stories, they have to have cameras. But then again, I mean, maybe the camera footage mysteriously disappeared.
Go without accountability.
I love you, sister. I love you so much with all my heart, and there's no way I would let this go like this.
An autopsy has been completed, but the coroner's office and the Waukegan Police Department are holding off on sharing details until a joint press conference next week. We have reached out to the hospital for comment, but we're still waiting to hear back from them. Reporting in Waukegan, Andrea Medina, WGN News.
True, Just Irish, and it being cold, door probably locks if shut and she was stuck. Alcohol withdrawal or the cold can kill you. Right, hypothermia. I mean, if she was there for 2 days, she couldn't get back in. I'm thinking if they thought she left, they should call your, quote, emergency contact bill to do so. Wow, Pookie, they changed your daughter's ER records. Oh, I know they played dirty. They got to protect that money, Got to protect at all costs. And it's sad because they're supposed to be helping people, but when something, goes wrong, it's about protecting themselves. So I'll definitely keep an eye out for the conference that's supposed to be happening tomorrow in regards to Chelsea. And it'll be interesting to hear what the hospital says and what the coroner's office says. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So I have 2 more stories. 2 more stories we're going to look at. And this next one is heartbreaking, honestly. So the title reads, Couple Finds Woman Experiencing Homelessness Seeking Shelter in Dog Kennel on Porch. So this couple, this young couple, they have a young child, super sweet. I believe it was the wife had gone out to do something and saw this woman sleeping in their dog kennel on the porch. And what they do when they find out is what makes this a great story, because most people, I don't think, would have been as generous. Sadly, more and more people are protecting themselves while less and less are protecting others. That is true. That is true. Really, Team Brit? You know this story? Yeah, I'm glad I'm getting all these different stories, because, and it's weird. Like, once you watch one thing, YouTube kind of gives you like the same things. And I'm like, okay, YouTube, I need like different things. So this one I was like, oh my gosh, like I was like, this is so sad. And then when I watched it, it's still heartbreaking, but she couldn't have found a better family to have sought shelter from.
And that'll proof that shelter is where you find it. As temperatures continue to drop below freezing again tonight, those who are experiencing homelessness,
oh my gosh,
some of the most
Irish
vulnerable.
6.
Do you see the woman right there?
Yeah, and we're reminded of that over and over again. Last night, one couple walked outside of their home and they saw the woman right here inside of their dog's kennel. She was actually using it to protect herself from the elements. The night team's John Paul Barajas sat down with homeowners who were startled at first, but then let the woman stay the night.
It's an act of desperation. Doorbell video captures the moments a woman experiencing homelessness resorted to getting into a dog kennel to try and stay warm.
First thing she told me, she's like, I'm super sorry. I have nowhere to go, but I'm sorry. And I mean, me and her were like.
It seemed like she got up to where she's like, I'm going to get kicked out, kind of almost already getting out of the kennel.
Kind of accepting the fate that she was going to have to move to a different location.
Yep.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. Mariah Pena had woken up around 3 a.m. and wanted to check in on potential snow when she opened the door to a stranger sleeping in the kennel on her porch.
The desperation in her voice of not asking, like, please let me stay, but this is the best that I have at this point in time and in the night. And so I think that also kind of got us a little heartbroken.
Pena and Daniel Bartiz didn't feel comfortable allowing the unknown woman into their home where their child sleeps, but also knew they couldn't find it in their hearts to make her leave.
I saw from her, she just nodded, and I can tell she was, of course, still half awake. She nodded, and she was just like, okay. And then that was pretty much it. She went back to sleep. We're blessed.
What we have here, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no reason we can't just let her sleep there.
And although a dog kennel isn't the best place to get out of the elements, in a time of need, something is better than nothing.
Got a thick blanket here, a bed sheet here, another bed sheet. I even had a car cover for the dogs, and trying to reduce the chance of any rain and that future snow coming in, then plastic covering on top.
They tell us the woman was gone by the time they woke up today, but as another hard freeze rolls in, the couple says they'd be happy to help the stranger out once again.
Has it crossed your guys' mind that her being able to stay in your dog's kennel overnight possibly might have saved her life in these type of temperatures?
Super cold, wet. Yeah, who knows what could have happened if she was just out in the streets.
John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
And to me, it could just be because, she's the woman's having, difficult times, but she did appear to me to be an older woman. So, I think if that happened to me, I feel like I would be the same as that couple. Like, I would be shocked, like, oh my gosh, there's a person inside my dog kennel. But then, I would probably bring her another blanket, ask, like, do you need something to drink? Do you want something to eat? And I would not allow her in my home. I can say that with certainty. but I would definitely offer, you know, I mean, yeah. Yeah. True, Senator. It's unacceptable that any senior citizen is sleeping in a dog kennel. I agree. And, you know, how far did this woman walk or wander and then just by happenstance see, hey, there's an open dog kennel that has, you know, it's sheltered from the wind, and it's so hard. It's so sad. As one who works with the homeless, I appreciate this, Emmy. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, they were so kind. So kind. All right, so the last story I will say is a tearjerker. But it's so heartwarming and so what's the word? It shows, I mean, I've seen stories like this before, where animals protect other animals, and these two dogs were siblings, or, you know, they lived together, whatever. And one of them was hit by a car. The other one refused to leave the other one. I know, Nanny Sharon. I thought about them, you know, someone, I don't remember who had said, you know, I have so many follow-up stories with that too, with the, you know, the floods and mudslides in North Carolina that I want to talk about. So I feel like I need to just pick a day to do, you know, updates on the fires in California, updates on North Carolina, and then I do have Wednesday off, so that actually would be a good day to talk about North Carolina. So I'm going to actually, I think, yeah, I don't think I am. I'm going to talk about North Carolina Wednesday because I don't work. So I haven't watched this entire video, but I did watch some of it, and just loyalty. And this dog refused to leave his sibling. And, you know, you think like the other dog could have just, you know, ran off and got out of harm's way, because this was along I-95. But he didn't. He didn't.
Trauma, survival, brotherhood, and beating all the odds. Sounds like the storyline of a movie. But these are true elements to a real story that our animal advocate, JC Birch, brings us today when it comes to the compassion and love shown between two bonded dogs. This is really one of those stories that you have to see to believe.
Found on the side of I-95 at exit 10 in Miami-Dade, the gray and white dog had been hit by a car. The brown dog used his body to protect his brother. Road rangers.
Protective. That's a great word. Like loyalty, protection. You know, the news anchor had said brotherhood. Just that bond.
Could barely even get to him.
So whoever hit him did not stop. And then Grover, the brown one, just stayed by his side.
Miami-Dade Animal Services arrived to pick up the hurt dog named Zorro.
The picture of them together on I-95, the fact that one was hurt and the other.
And thank goodness there was a good Samaritan who saw these dogs. And, you know, the driver who hit them, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know, you know, things happen. But then there are people who will do things like that and just keep driving. But thankfully someone stopped and called for help so that these babies could get the help that they needed.
The other one wouldn't leave him. The dog could have gone anywhere and he wasn't going to leave his friend. Just brought tears to my eyes.
Aww,
and a calling in her heart. Leslie Fernandez had to save Zorro.
I went to the shelter without a plan. I just had to take this dog out.
At that point, Grover had gotten lost in the mix, picked up by a driver. But leave it to Leslie. She was determined to reunite the brothers.
Oh my God, look at him. He's so happy. He's so cute. I'm not a huge dog person, but look at his face. He is so happy. Let me get rid of these quotes. Look at, he's like, ah, he's happy too. But this one is like, he almost looks overjoyed to me. Overjoyed, this guy in the back. Dogs are amazing and smarter than we ever could give them credit for. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Pookie. That's so sad. But Mateo got him home to you. Yeah.
To me, this is one of the most heartwarming stories I've ever seen in the 50 years I've been a veterinarian.
Dr. David Wise joined forces with Leslie's rescue group to devise a plan to save Zorro.
When Zorro came in, he had
Zorro,
fractured
what a great
right
name.
elbow, a dislocated left hip, and a deranged right knee. So 3 out of 4 legs did not work.
This lifelong surgeon had never seen a dog with 3 broken legs ever be able to walk again.
All he could do was lay on the floor and wag his tail. And I said, whoa, we're not putting this dog to sleep. I don't care what happened. But he's sitting there in that kind of shape, wagging his tail, so happy to be alive. I said, we got to help this dog.
And while the team at VCA Knowles.
And that's a great way to look at it because, like he said, you know, if most dogs who have 3 broken legs, the chances of them, you know, being able to walk again, their quality of life wouldn't be very good. But he said, you know, he was wagging his tail and he wanted to live, so he was going to give it a shot. Look at him. He is so stinking cute. Hey, Grain, how are you?
Central Animal Hospital was preparing for months and months of surgeries and rehab for Zorro. Leslie had tracked down Grover in Broward. When the two brothers met again for the first time 5 days after the highway accident, Zorro could not walk, but he crawled over to his brother.
Would they get upset if they can't see each other?
A little bit. They like to see each other.
More than half a dozen surgeries, over $15,000 spent, and these vet techs patiently working with Zorro.
And when you see the pictures of him not being able to move, and where he is now walking.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
When I first saw that, I had tears in my eyes when I first saw him walk.
Zorro beat all the odds stacked against him, but then the unthinkable.
Zorro has the bigger kennel because he's the one recovering from surgery. But imagine Grover. He's been living for 1 year in this kennel right here.
Nobody has stepped up to adopt these dogs.
You want to get out of there, right? Good boy. So good boy.
That is such, I know, you know, rescues are underfunded, but that crate, a dog being in that crate for hours a day, it's so sad.
So good boy.
And Leslie will not separate them.
The love and loyalty that Grover has for Zorro is unmatched in many ways.
And these dogs need a home. They're big and strong.
I know.
They could use some training, but the love they have to give is
so
unconditional.
I'm trying to get you adopted. Be a good boy.
Okay, take it out.
I look, perfect behavior now.
A year in these kennels is unfathomable, and it's taking a toll.
Every option has fallen through for these dogs, and I have to believe there has to be a home for them. It's such a special story, and they fought so much to be together, to be alive. I'm just praying that home is out there.
And I know my animal lovers are out there. Someone special will find it in their hearts to take these 2 big boys together and give them their first real home in over a year. If that someone is you, please go to local10.com and click on the Animal Advocate link. I've put Leslie's email and her rescue website, Interstate Partners for Animal Welfare, with this story. She'll even sponsor training for the dogs too.
Oh, wow.
Zorro and Grover
That's
are ready and
cool.
waiting. I'm JC Birch, your animal advocate for Local 10 News.
Such a good story. Such a good story. And it makes me wonder. I thought this was a recent story, but let me just double check. I just saw it and I was like, I need to talk about this. It could, because they've been, oh yeah, 4 days ago. So those dogs, this happened a year ago. So they're looking to find them. You know, we have someone here who does like on the news, they have like adoptable pets every week. And so these two guys, this happened a year ago. And so this was January 21st. So it is a recent clip. Yeah, generous vet for sure. And, you know, just to give that not Grover, Zorro a chance. You know, he was wagging his tail. That I probably would have done the same. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for being here. Lots of stories to talk about. I did have one more story on my slides, but I'm going to save that for a different day. So I do plan on going live. I'm going to say tomorrow. I thought about maybe doing a later live today, but I don't think I'll have time to prepare for it. So I will go live tomorrow with updates on the California wildfires. Specifically, the one clip I have is of the evacuee who was riding his bike to safety, and he had his artwork with him, and he couldn't carry everything. So a reporter had said, I'll take these for you. When things are safe, we'll get them back to you. So they did meet up. Oh, and the other one, if you were here, I had shown the video of the woman who couldn't see through the smoke and ended up on a boulder, and she was stuck. So her husband had a fireman come up and help her. They reunited. So she was able to meet the fireman who helped save her. And so that's another story that we'll look at. And then there's a few other ones I've seen that are still heartbreaking, but a little bit more lighthearted in nature. So, oh, it's okay, Team Brit. I didn't go live at all this past week. So it was, you didn't miss anything. We had state exams. So they have 2 state exams a day, and depending on what grade level you're in, you would take certain ones. And it's just, even though there's less kids and we're not actively teaching, it's mentally exhausting to proctor exams for 6 hours a day. Exhausting. So, yeah, so I'll be back tomorrow. If I don't see you on these YouTube streets, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you may be. If you haven't hit that like, please do so on the way out. And until next time, I will see you on the flip side.
Let it take me to that place now. I won't ever let my thoughts get away now. I got better things to do, picking fate now. I just wanna be the best, call me great now. I don't know if I'm okay or insane now. I remember better days on the playground, hoping I can find my way to even when I'm feeling down. I fight, even when I don't know what is right. I'ma pick a side and I'ma take pride. I will decide my fate and I will never let them tell me who I am. If you try to shake me, I'll be damned. Planet on the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside. I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside. I'm alone.